first glance, Nightmare of Decay seems basic. At least it looked like that to me when I first saw it during the Steam Winter Sale. It gave those vibes of retro-inspired boomer shooters, but at the same time, the reviews are kind of positive, and the genre said survival horror, so I bought it at a reasonable price, and I'm certainly extremely glad I did. Hi, my name is Maxwell, and welcome to my cool little series of cool little videos about cool little games. And today I'd like to talk to you about Nightmare of Decay, a game that I could call a love letter to the survival horror genre, but focused on the more action and FPS aspects of it. It was made on Unity by a team called Checkmatey, and it released in 2022, so it has some years behind it, but with the obvious retro inspiration, it kind of stays timeless. The game is short and tells a simple story of a man who has a nightmare he's trapped in. And this nightmare certainly is inspired by a lot of classics from the survival horror genre. The first one being the first Resident Evil game. The setting of Nightmare of Decay is one, you could say, dungeon that takes the form of a building strikingly similar to Spencer Mansion from said game. It turns out we can't leave it and we need to go inside to find our way out into, well, the real world. We explore it, finding certain items that help us solve different puzzles, and just like in all of the classics of the genre, we all know them because many of these puzzles are direct references to certain games. On the corridors we face zombies that are, well, again, direct references to Resident Evil, but like I said earlier, it is an FPS and it is kind of action-based. There are a lot of bosses and we have pretty much a lot of ammo, at least on the normal difficulty I played. So, just like in Resident Evil 8, for example, I could easily blast my way through this place. And it was quite fun, because to my surprise, this game is made with a striking amount of attention to details. For example, in physics, when we throw a dynamite stick into a group of enemies, they scatter around pretty realistically with heavy impact. The shots from many different weapons can blast off the heads of our enemies in a pretty satisfying way. So for a game that I at first glance thought as something basic, I later became amazed at how well it is made. Even though the cutscenes stay pretty video gamey and they don't try to be extremely cinematic, they always show something cool and interesting. So in the department of the story, there is always something cool to look forward to on every step of our journey through this mansion. A lot of times, especially in the beginning, there are these cool, more like visual novel segments when the narrative is laid out before our eyes in like a scene, but it is also described through a dialogue box. These moments worked really cool, to my surprise. And obviously, there wouldn't be a great horror game without great audio design, and Nightmare of Decay does it also pretty well. The way we hear the breathing of a monster before we enter the room they are in, or how the empty corridors of the mansion echo our gunshots and the unsettling moans of the zombies. It all works well to create a cohesive and an extremely brilliant survival horror experience. The only downside I found are the boss fights that, at least on the normal difficulty, felt pretty similar to each other. Here I can mention some of the similarities or like homages to other horror games, for example, the Chainsaw Psycho fight that really reminded me of the Jack Baker fight from Resident Evil 7. It's also probably my favorite fight of the game, as it had a cool mechanic to it that you had to utilize to efficiently kill the boss, because without it, it kills you in one hit. There was the Monstrous Beast boss fight that surprised me with another well-known horror adjacent inspiration. And a lot of the characters that we see throughout the game that are trapped in dimensions just like us are sometimes the characters we know from other survival horror games. There is, for example, Angela from Silent Hill 2 that is obviously a parody of the character, but I believe her cameo and the cameo of another well-known protagonist, they felt like gentle winks to the fans of the genre, and I was really enjoying seeing every one of those. Also, to my surprise, Nightmare of Decay has some more things than just the main story that is pretty short. I finished the game in 2 hours, so it's technically one nice evening. But after finishing the game, there are some extra features like Horde mode that with the fun gunplay of the main game was an enjoyable experience for me. And also there is the dungeon escape, which to me seems like an extremely cool idea because it's basically a randomly generated experience of this game. If you enjoyed it a lot, finding your way through technically the same mansion, but here just jumbled and shuffled and without maybe the precise level design, it is a really cool addition. So yeah, so if you feel like you're a big fan of the survival horror genre and you would like to play something more lighthearted and it values the genre that you love, Nightmare of Decay is a pretty good choice. As a fan of survival horror, I had so much fun, and with my whole heart, I'm recommending you all to play it too, if you find it interesting. And in the meantime, that's all from me. Thank you for watching, and see you in more videos to come.